Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review. This time we are looking at Curse of Honor from the Legend of the Five Rings intellectual property. Legend of the Five Rings is a role-playing game that was first created in 1995. The latest iteration of it, released by Fantasy Flight Games. There have been living card games based on Legend of the Five Rings. There have been board games. Now, I personally have never played the role-playing game, although you can see on the shelf over here that I love role-playing games. That top shelf is filled with 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. The shelf underneath it is Call of Cthulhu and Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of. I love reading role-playing game books, rules, learning new rule sets. It's just a lot of fun to me, but I've never had the chance to read or play any of the Legend of the Five Rings stuff, especially the latest version by Fantasy Flight Games. I kind of got turned off because a lot of Fantasy Flight Games, role-playing games, you need their specialty dice to play it, and that just pisses me off a little bit. But I am familiar with Legend of the Five Rings. It is basically set in the world of Rokugan, which is kind of a feudal Japan with a little bit of like Chinese, Mongolia, and South Korean stuff kind of thrown in there. There are clans that are feuding. There are monsters, there's magic, there's all that kind of great stuff. So I was familiar with the intellectual property going into this book, but I was a little bit skeptical, basically because books like this, are really hit and miss. I was familiar with the author, David Annandale, had written some stuff for Warhammer 40K. So they kind of poached him from Games Workshop, I guess. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect going into this. So I'll just get on with the review. We have yet another episode of The first thing I want to say about this is the cover art by Nathan Elmer is just gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous. The thing that ruins the cover, however, right here, can he find glory amongst the ruins? Very, very misleading. Now, this story starts out with Haru, a young samurai whose mother is head of the house that rules Shining Dawn Castle. They are part of the Crab Clan. The Crab Clan are defenders against the monsters of the Shadowlands, basically. So they kind of guard the southern part of Rokugan against these invading monsters. Now, Haru is pretty much a fuck-up. People blame him for the death of his father. He's really never been tested in battle. And you get, in these opening part of the story, you get this idea that he really is full of self-doubt. And it's a little bit boring, but it makes for a very interesting character. Now, you are misled. You are led to believe that Haru is the main character in this story, but he is not. Ultimately, what happens is Haru is leading a merchant caravan back to Shining Dawn Castle, and they stumble across the City of Night's Hunger, which is this lost city that is kind of trapped in time. And Haru believes that finding this city is going to bring him glory, and ultimately he decides to go back there, even though his mother, the daimyo of the castle, doesn't want him to. He has brought great shame on his family because a lot of merchants were killed coming back to Shining Dawn Castle. So he goes back there, and then the captain of the guard is sent out to rescue him. Now, this is where the book gets really interesting. The characters. Haru is in love with one of the samurais, she doesn't reciprocate his feelings, he thinks he can win her back by bringing honor, or win her back, or sorry, just win her love, I guess, by bringing honor to the family. Now, this samurai is in love with the captain of the guard, who is also a woman. The idea of this unspoken lesbian kind of love between these two characters, you think seems pretty tacked on. It's not. It's handled very tastefully, and it's really, really well done. And it's at this point that you realize that one of the samurai is ultimately the main character of this story. At the same time, you have a lot of political intrigue. There is another family that is vying for control of Shining Dawn Castle. Even though they're both in the same clan, whoever really controls the castle is going to ultimately have the power there. Whatever was in the City of Night's Hunger comes back to Shining Dawn Castle. Then you get this really tense part of the story where it's almost like the classic John Carpenter's The Thing, where there's something that's killing people. At the same time, the castle's under siege by undead. And it all kind of culminates into a twist that is really quite obvious, but pretty good. It didn't detract at all from the story when I read it. And then ultimately, they have to go back to the City of Night's Hunger in order to stop the ancient evil and kind of save everyone. You think this is going to read like a traditional fantasy novel, and it doesn't. It is very, very well written. The characters are well fleshed out. At no point in this story after the initial maybe 4 chapters does it seem boring at all. There's always something happening. There's always another angle to a character that they are exploring. You get this idea of the feudal Japan idea of shame and family honor and how important a role they play. You get this self-contained story, but you know that there is a larger world of Rokugan out there, and I do have more books that kind of explore that, different clans, different parts of the world. But for the first book, the first in a sensational new series of fantasy novels set in the epic world of Legend of the Five Rings, this is a fucking knockout. This is absolutely fantastic, and I cannot recommend this book enough. That is Curse of Honor by David Annandale, a writer who did write for Games Workshop in the past. So there you go. Very quick, very simple, just an excellent medieval fantasy feudal Japan novel with a lot of character layers, a surprising amount of character layers, to be perfectly honest with you. So thank you for watching. Please go to Redbubble, check out some Plaguelands Media merchandise, and stay safe. There will be another review coming up in a few days, actually a very special one. I'm very excited to do this one, but I'm not going to give anything away. So look for that in the next couple of days. And as always, if you've got nothing to do this afternoon, then I recommend you read a fucking book, people.